Hi, welcome to JKCoding. I'm Jagdish Kumar. Today's session is about types and variables. Let's get started. What is type? A type defines the structure and behavior of any data in C#. When we code, we do encounter the usage of the data. So, to define the structure and behavior of any data, we will use type. What is the declaration of the type will include? It includes members, base type, interfaces it implements, and operations permitted for that type. And next thing is, what is variable? A variable is a label that refers to an instance of a specific type. That means we have a type. So when we wanted to make use of that type, then we need to create an instance of that particular type. For that, we'll create instance and then we're going to assign it to the variable. So that is a use of a variable in the coding. So what are the types that are available in the C#? There are mainly two types, that is value types and reference types. What is a value type? So variables of these value types directly contain their data. Unlike value type in reference types, variables of reference types store only references to their data. It will not actually store data. Data will be stored somewhere else. It will just store the references of that particular data, maybe like pointer or something like that. And then this data later being known as a objects. And with value types, the variables of each have their own copy of data. As I said, value type variables have their own copy of data. So because of that, it is not possible for them for the operations on one effect to other. That means value of one variable, it is not going to change the value of any other variable. When we coming to the reference types, it is possible to have two variables to reference the same object. So in this case, once we change the value of that object in one variable, it is going to affect the other variable as well, because it is also referencing the same object. So in value types, we do have one more classification. So in that, we'll have first thing is simple types, and in single types we have these 6 types, that is signed integral and unsigned integral, floating point, decimal floating point, character, and boolean. Let's get into each things in detail. So in signed integral, we do have s byte, short, int, long, and in unsigned integral we have byte, u short, u int, u long. Let's flip to MSDN site and let's take the range. If you see s byte, it has a range between 128 to the 127, and the size of this s byte was 8-bit integer. It is a signed 8-bit integer, and .NET type was system.s byte. So if you see here, it is an 8-bit integer. That means one bit is just like 0 and 1. 8-bit means it is 2 power 8. That means it's gonna hold 256 values, 2 power 8. And if you see the range, it is also the same, minus 128 to 127, it is 256. So in the signed integrals, you will be having both negative values and positive values. When it comes to the unsigned integral types, then you don't be finding any negative values. You will be having only positive values. If you see byte, unsigned type, it is just 0 to 255, and it is unsigned 8-bit integer. This size was. And if you see the signed short, then it gonna hold minus 32,768 to 32,767, and the size was signed 16-bit integer, and the .NET type was system.int16. And when we see unsigned short, that means it gonna hold 0 to 65,535. It is a unsigned 16-bit integer. So remember one thing, unsigned means only positive values. That is signed means it can have a sign, that means it can have minus or positive values, that means both negative and positive values. And if you go to the int type, it gonna say the range would be this thing, and the size would be 32-bit integer. And unsigned also the same thing, but only have the positive values, 32-bit integer. And long and unsigned long likewise. So when we see the practical thing in the Visual Studio, let's get into that. So I wanted to create a variable on sbyte. So sbyte equal to I wanted to give the value of the 10 here, so I can give it here like this, because it is a sbyte. It's gonna hold a value between minus 128 to 127. So because 10 is in this range, it's gonna accept this. And when you wanted to print this, you can just do that, console.writeline sp, and when you run it, you can see the value of 10 in the console. See, this is the value of sbyte that we have given. But you can also give the minus 10 value here, it will accept. But when we give the unsigned byte here, then it is not going to accept minus 10. It is giving compiler time error. It is saying that constant value minus 10 cannot be converted to a byte. So we cannot give like this. So the next thing was short. Let's give the short here. It will accept because the range is between minus 32,768. So if you give this, that will also accept. But if you give anything beyond that, it won't accept. If I give the 69, then it is not going to accept. Okay, because it will say the same compile time error that we seen in the last time, that is constant value minus 32,769 cannot be converted to a short. So if you wanted to print the same thing, you can also do same thing short. When you run the application, the same value will be printed, minus 32,768. And when I wanted to give the more value beyond this thing, maybe 789, and I wanted to give the unsigned short here, even though it will not accept because it is not in that range. In this case, what we can give, so we will have to see in what range it will fit. It will fit in the integer. I'll just give it as a int. Now it will accept. So likewise, based on our needs, we can select the type and we can make use of that in our code. So we no need to memorize all these things. We can just refer this page whenever we needed. So that is enough. And next, coming to the next type, that is floating point and high precision decimal floating. So whenever we wanted to store any decimal values or any decimal things, then in that case we have to go for these two. Suppose you have written numbers here. Let's write one decimal point here. Will it going to accept? No, because it is a double and it is saying that cannot implicitly convert double to int. Okay, So we must select the proper type for our data. Because it is a decimal thing, we have to select the decimal here. When we see the decimal and double and float, you can see the approximate range and precision and size of the type here. So if you go for the float, then precision of the float was 6 to 9 digits and the size would be 4 bytes, and the .NET type was system.single. And if you go for the double, the precision was 15 to 17 digits and the size was 8 bytes, and the .NET type was system.double. And if you go for decimal, it is going to give the highest precision in the types, that is 28 to 29 digits, and we can hold the big numbers in this decimal, that is of 16 bytes. It has a size, and the .NET type was system.decimal. So let's have a few examples here. So I wanted to store a float in the variable. So how can I write? I'll write float and f equal to some value 10.2, and I need to give a suffix of f here. And if I wanted to print, I will just have a f here. And if you run the application, you will see the float number in this. It is 10.2. Okay. And if you wanted to give the double number here, you can just give here. And if you give double, then you no need to give the f here. You can have decimals, more decimals, and it is going to work even without suffix of f. When I run it, I can able to see the value of entire thing. And if I wanted to write the decimal, then I should write the decimal, and I should be having suffix of m in the end. And if I execute the program, then I can see the output of here, and even I can give the more digits here because it is of high precision. I think you can see the number here, decimal here, and that is what about the decimal was. Let's go to the other type. And next type was the char. That means whenever you wanted to store any one character, then you can make use of the char type. So for that, what I should write is, I should write char and c that is equal to, and I need to write the character in a single quote. So whenever we write anything in the string, then we might be using double quotes, but while writing char, we should be writing only single quote. So if I wanted to display the same thing, I can just have it here, and if I run it, the A will be displayed here. So this char is used whenever we wanted to have, or we wanted to store, and we wanted to use for only one particular character. And then if you go to the next type, that is boolean. So what boolean will do? So it will just store the value true or false. It won't store anything beyond that. Only stores whether it is a true or false. So bool type b equal to true. That means it is it is storing the value of true. If you try to give anything other than true or false, then it is going to give the compile time error. It is saying that the name true one does not exist in the current context. Okay, so we should either give true or false. So this is what about bool. This boolean will be majorly used whenever we wanted to have any checks in the if condition. For suppose if the employee is eligible for the promotion, then we can have a one boolean variable saying that is he eligible for promotion. So something like that we can use, and we can assign the values respectively, and we can make use of that variable. So that is about boolean. Yeah, that's all for this session. Let's meet in the next session.